The sky was crystal blue that morning, painted with soft streaks of gold as Flight 728 lifted off from Los Angeles bound for Tokyo. Passengers settled into their seats, some scrolling through phones, others sipping coffee, their faces bathed in gentle daylight pouring through oval windows. Among them sat Lena Hart, seat 14A, a quiet woman with sun-kissed hair tied in a loose bun, wearing a faded bomber jacket. She stared absently out the window, the reflection of clouds dancing over her tired eyes. No one knew her. To them, she was just another traveler. The engines hummed smoothly beneath the cabin floor, that steady, comforting vibration that promised safety. Children laughed somewhere behind her, a couple whispered across the aisle, and a flight attendant smiled as she passed with her cart of drinks. Everything seemed ordinary, even peaceful. But behind that calm, Lena carried a past that refused to rest. She had left the Air Force 2 years ago, promising herself she'd never fly again, not after what happened over the Mediterranean. She closed her eyes, the hum of the engines fading into a memory she had buried. She thought she'd escaped the sky. She was wrong. An hour into the flight, daylight still bright above the clouds, the calm began to fracture. A faint vibration rippled through the cabin, just enough to make cups tremble. A few passengers glanced up, uneasy, then shrugged it off. But Lena's instincts caught it. Her fingers tightened around the armrest. Then came another jolt, harder. The flight attendants exchanged worried looks. The intercom crackled. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated." The captain's voice came, too steady to be real. Lena looked toward the cockpit door, heart pounding. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. The plane tilted slightly, not enough for panic, but enough for Lena to feel gravity shift against her chest. A soft gasp echoed from a passenger as turbulence shook the cabin harder now. The lights flickered once, twice, and a sudden silence fell. The engines had cut out. Gasps turned to screams. The captain's voice broke through static. "We're experiencing a technical issue. Please stay calm." But Lena knew that tone. It wasn't calm, it was fear. The kind she'd heard in pilots who'd lost control. She rose halfway from her seat before a flight attendant gently pushed her back. "Ma'am, please stay seated." Lena met her eyes, voice steady. "Not if you want to live." The cabin erupted into chaos. Alarms began to wail, oxygen masks dropped from the ceiling, and people cried out in panic. The daylight streaming through windows now seemed cruelly bright against the terror inside. Lena pushed past the attendant, her military calm taking over. "Ma'am, you can't." "I can't," Lena snapped, flashing a glint of the Air Force insignia still stitched faintly on her jacket sleeve. The attendant froze, recognizing authority. Lena moved swiftly toward the cockpit as the plane shook violently, overhead bins flinging open, luggage spilling out. Inside the cockpit, the scene was worse. The captain struggled to restart systems while the co-pilot clutched his chest, gasping. "Heart attack," the captain muttered, sweat beading on his brow. "Controls, they're not responding." Lena stepped forward, her voice sharp, commanding. "Move." The captain blinked, startled. "Who are you?" "Someone who can fly this bird." Without waiting for approval, she slid into the co-pilot's seat, scanning dials, flipping switches, her mind racing. The alarm screamed, altitude dropping fast. The captain hesitated, then nodded. "You know what you're doing?" Lena met his eyes, calm but fierce. "You'll find out soon enough." The aircraft plunged through thick clouds, turbulence slamming it from side to side. Passengers prayed, screamed, held hands, but inside the cockpit, a storm of focus raged. Lena's hands moved like instinct, guiding the plane's nose upward against the drag of dead engines. "Mayday, mayday," she said into the comms, her voice steady though her heartbeat thundered in her ears. "Flight 728, dual engine failure, attempting emergency descent." Static answered. No tower, no help. Just endless daylight, and the furious sound of air tearing past metal. "We're losing altitude too fast," the captain warned. Lena gritted her teeth, checking instruments flickering with dying power. "Then we make our own runway." The world outside spun in white and blue, a storm breaking below, sunlight slicing through mist. Her jacket clung to her arms with sweat as she worked the controls manually. The plane groaned, metal straining against physics. Come on, she muttered, voice cracking. The captain watched her, this stranger, this woman who seemed carved from steel, fighting gravity itself. Below, faint outlines of land appeared through the haze. For the first time, there was hope. The daylight blazed through thinning clouds as the ground rushed closer. We have no hydraulics, the captain said. Brakes are gone. Then we glide, Lena replied, her tone razor sharp. Her hands guided the yoke with surgical precision, aligning the plane toward a stretch of abandoned coastal road glimmering under sunlight. You're going to land on that? The captain asked, disbelief mixing with awe. Watch me. The cabin shook as she lowered the landing gear manually. Sparks flew across warning panels. The passengers braced for impact. Hold on, she yelled, pulling the yoke with every ounce of strength left. The wheels hit asphalt, screeching, metal screaming, sparks bursting like fireworks. The plane skidded, bounced once, then finally slowed, tires bursting, wings trembling. When it stopped, there was silence. Then the sound of crying, laughter, disbelief. The passengers began clapping, sobbing, cheering. The captain looked at her, breathless. You just saved 300 lives. Lena exhaled, leaning back in her seat. No, she whispered, eyes glinting with daylight. They saved me. Hours later, under calm sunlight and the hum of rescue vehicles, passengers stood on the tarmac, gazing at the woman who had brought them home. Cameras clicked, reporters shouted questions, but Lena said little. Her bomber jacket fluttered in the warm breeze as she stared at the ocean shimmering beyond the runway, the same ocean she once feared returning to. The captain approached, voice soft. You sure you're done flying? She smiled faintly, her reflection caught in his aviator glasses. I was done once, she said, but maybe the sky had other plans. Around her, families hugged, children waved, strangers shared tears. The world would later call her a hero. But Lena didn't feel like one. She had simply done what the sky had once taught her, to never give up when everything falls apart. As she walked toward the waiting ambulance, the sunlight framed her silhouette, strong, solitary, redeemed. The flight that should have ended in tragedy had instead written her name across the sky.